Restaurant servers of Reddit, what is something all customers should know or do and currently don't? If your server is holding a tray of drinks or dishes of food, if it's that kind of place, in their hand while serving the table, don't take anything off the tray because the server likely won't be able to adjust for the weight shift differential in time and what's remaining on that tray will likely go aflame. Had a table of 6 once where I was serving their drink order while holding the tray in my hand. And the guy at the far end of the table apparently couldn't wait an additional 6 seconds to get his shitty $2 pint of Bud Light draft. And grabbed it while I was passing out the first pints. And the 3 remaining drinks went tumbling all over me and their table. This kind of happened to me once, except instead of taking the drinks from my tray they insisted on sitting outside on a windy day. Place was on the water so small wind would take the umbrellas that were at the table. And they had to be told twice that due to the wind they could not put the umbrellas up. They decided that instead of letting me get the drinks on the table they would talk to me for 5 minutes about the menu and what was cooked in what way. Big gust of wind came and the tray caught it. Spilled the drinks. I was blamed and they threatened to have me fired over it because I didn't grovel enough. Apparently saying I'm sorry and getting copious rags and paper towels wasn't enough. We went on vacation last summer to TN and had a server spill drinks on my teenage son. She lost balance of her tray and couldn't catch it in time. It was 100% hilarious. The look on my kid's face. The look on our server's face. The look on my husband and other son's face was the best part of the vacation. We all felt so bad for her because you could tell she was mortified, but that tea was funny and we finally got her to laugh about it with some good-natured teasing. Even my son with his MT. Dew-drenched crotch joined in and got her to laugh about it. Made sure to track the manager down and explain it was an accident. That we all secretly hope to see something like that one day and to not write her up for any of it. Left a nice tip and gave her a hug. Accidents happen. Don't flip out over them. Literally the only time you should ever do that is when the server asks you to grab the drinks. Super rare occasion, but I had it happen once to me before. This girl had a tray full of drinks and she slid half the tray on the table and was struggling to balance it and pass the drinks out, so she kindly asked me to grab a few off her tray to help out with the weight of it all. Other than that, you keep your damn hands off the tray. Saw the opposite of this happen one time. The server set down the huge tray full of plates of food on those foldable stands between 2 booths. They were halfway finished passing out all of the food to the table. Then, for some forsaken reason, a woman at the other table decided the massive serving tray was where she would put her table's empty plates on. They were heavy enough to throw off the balance the server was working on maintaining. Moments later, shattered porcelain, glass, and food all over the aisle. Don't let your kids run around like f***ing rabid animals. I worked in a ton of restaurants and even the high-end ones would have negligent parents letting their kids run around while I'd be carrying a bunch of hot entrees. My son can do quite the accurate imitation of me going like, every time we go to a restaurant. Consider it a dress rehearsal for being a grown-up. Remember your manners and use them. This isn't loud, silly, messy time. It's quiet, mellow, polite time. Double quote. He does that to his younger cousins. They actually listen. It's great. I was walking with a tray full of pizzas when the front door opened and a small child came charging right at me. I had just enough time to avoid this child and say whoop. And move on. The mother spent the whole time losing her shit about how she would have sued me and how much of a trashy person I was. It sucked. I hid in the back and someone else served her. Question for servers. Is it better or worse for the table to combine dirty dishes for you to pick up? I've received conflicting information. Edit. Still receiving conflicting information, but mainly if you have some common sense and gentle understand of basic physics. You could probably help out by stacking some plates. Combining the dishes is fine, but for the love of God do not shove your dirty napkin in your glass. More work for me, and now I can't stack my glasses, and I also don't want to have to shove my whole hand in a dirty pint glass to grab a dirty napkin. Just put it on your plate or leave it on the table. Honestly, I like when people stack. But it does give the impression a server isn't doing their job to either other tables or management. I'd never get upset at a table for not stacking. And I'll never get upset at someone trying to be helpful, unless it's something like pulling your own food. Or what you think is your own food off my tray. I am not a server, but I would like to say every place I go to stack the plates anyway, so I don't see why not helping them. A problem I see though is people putting the smallest on the bottom. Not everyone does this, but don't snap at us to get our attention, we aren't dogs. I hate when people bang their utensils on the glass. Sometimes I'll walk away and act like I didn't hear it when they do that. I worked at a casino as a slot attendant when they only accepted cash and coins. Before the current paper tickets. A guy was whistling, snapping, and clapping at us to get our attention. Everything but tapping the big button on his machine that said call attendant. Double quote. After about 10 minutes, we have radios and told everyone to avoid him due to his shitty behavior. He finally got up and walked over to us. Shitty you not. The only thing he said was, "Hey, I've been whistling for your attention for a long time." Double quote. Only thing I could think of was to say I'd heard that. But I thought he lost his service dog or something. Turns out rich people don't like being ignored, mocked, or talked down to by hourly employees. I think all restaurants should feature buttons or some other mechanism to call on wait staff. Otherwise, your waiter is always checking in when you don't need them and absent when you do. If a restaurant doesn't want to invest in Michelin tier staff that can respond to subtle cues from customers, then don't force us to wave or call to waiters, or otherwise figure out which method of getting their attention is socially acceptable. Hell, if Bubba Gump Shrimp can solve this problem, then so can anyone. Just be polite for fuck's sake. I don't even care if you're polite. Just don't be mean. Ignore me. Inconvenience me. Be high maintenance. Leave bad tips. Send back food. Make a mess. Whatever. That's all good and expected. None of that kind of stuff will change my mood or service, but talk down to me and you're at the bottom of my to-do list. Literally just be polite. You can get your way a lot faster and easier just by being polite. There is no reason for you to be rude to a restaurant server. It changes my whole day around having nice people after nice people. But please, for the love of God, stop asking me if I'm on the menu. Stop asking for my number. Or writing yours on the receipt. And no, I will not show you what I look like without a mask. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable when customers flirt with me. Before my daughter, I hated screaming kids. After my daughter, I hated screaming kids. If she acted up in a restaurant, we would go to the restroom or outside. If there was a total meltdown, happened once. Got the food to go. Parents are responsible for their children's behavior. Let people enjoy their meals. That is from a customer and worker's view. I've done this before. My son had a meltdown after we ordered. Wife and I took the kids home and my in-laws enjoyed their meal without us, at our urging, before bringing our meals to our house. I try to be extra respectful when the kids are with us and leave a nice tip to make up for any disturbance we caused. When my two were younger, they got into a fight at the table in a restaurant. I noped them out of there as soon as the waitress came to the table. Had to pack the food to go. Tipped her 40% for the trouble, because if I'd known today was their shat day I would have gotten it to go to begin with, and took them out. Part of the scolding they got was that they didn't have the right to interrupt the meals of every person in that restaurant who had also paid for a nice night out. Tell your server about any possible food allergies or foods that can interfere with medications. Grapefruit juice can interfere with lots of meds. Even if you don't think it matters based on what you ordered. You are responsible for your health. Not your server. I was the salad guy at my first job. And most guests were good about this. And the servers were really good about making sure we knew what we needed to know. The ticket was heavily modded with things such as, not a drill. Customer has strawberry allergy. Customer will die if you FCK up. That was my cue to clear my station. Clean. Sanitize. and replace everything to ensure the guest's safety. It took a few extra minutes. And the guests that let us know about their needs never ever complained about the extra time. If you're going to switch tables, please let us know about it. I don't know if this is the case for everyone, but I remember where to put drinks and food, not who ordered them. So if you switch around, you're going to get asked who had what every time. I hated when people did this because customers usually don't understand that if you want to sit at a different table, you will be in a different section and have a different server. The place I worked at had a beautiful view from the windows, so of course everyone wanted to sit there. And whoever was running that section would be the only one to make real money that night. That sucked. Telling your server that you once worked in a restaurant as justification for some over-the-top request makes you look terrible. I work at a restaurant cafe and we serve coffee. We're not a Starbucks or anything, so there's nothing too fancy, just your stock standard coffees. I had a lady come into the restaurant I worked at the other day and she ordered a half shot decaf caramel latte with 2 sugars over ice, made with a mixture of coconut and macadamia milk instead of cow's milk, and she even said, "Oh, I work in hospitality so I'm allowed to order complicated things." Lol. Then she asked if we could get her a bucket of warm soapy water so she could wash her dog in the courtyard. What? We are way more likely to give you free stuff, make more food, or bring out extras if you kindly ask. I know. Should be common sense. But sadly it isn't. And for goodness sake, if you're in the US, tip your servers and delivery drivers. It's the vast majority of their income. Additionally, if the food isn't good, speak up, kindly! Exclamation point. Please don't sit there and not enjoy it, then take it out of the server's tip. It's likely not at all their fault and they'd much rather make it right for you than get tipped less. About the tipping. I agree to tip if I get service. I don't demand much. Just a polite waiter and staff is basically all. But there were several places I went eating or drinking that did not offer service at all. Even so, they demanded tip. While I understand that wages in the US are dogshit, the tipping culture is kind of disgusting. Cause a number of the workers are expecting it no matter what they do. Please stop saying it was terrible after eating everything on your plate. I worked in a busy restaurant in the center of London, and one of the common problems we had that I've not seen mentioned yet was people not waiting to be seated. Literally just coming in and taking a seat. If you do this, 9 times out of 10 we won't notice you. That means you won't get your menus. And because you don't have your menus on the table, the servers will think you've already ordered and basically ignore you. If you're unlucky enough to be noticed waltzing in and taking a table, chances are you'll be moved. Normally because that table is either dirty, booked out, or we have a seating system that means those tables aren't in use until prime serving. At which point they're likely booked out anyway. Plus, you instantly get put in the server's bad books because you've already been an inconvenience to us. TLDR, if there's no host to seat you, just be patient and wait. Nobody likes customers that waltz in and help themselves to a table. Former busboy here. Don't deliberately leave your table a mess because it's giving them a job. And it is much appreciated when plates and stuff are all stacked up in one spot. Also, please do not come in 5 minutes before the place closes. Groups of 2 typically stay an hour, and each additional person adds about another 10 minutes. So when a group of 7 people come in just before closing time, imagine my dismay when I have to wait around an extra 2 hours after closing time. We aren't there to babysit. Please control your children when you're in a restaurant. And if you can't, you should consider not being in a restaurant. I'm talking specifically about families that let their child crawl around in the floor. Don't do that. Never FCK with anyone who makes or has access to your food. As a line cook, I would never FCK with anyone's food. And I'd flip if I saw any of my co-workers doing that. There's some shitty that you just don't do. Damn right I curse shitty guests under my breath. Though. Be polite, people. Most places have a tip out. A percentage of the server's sales go towards the kitchen bar hosts. Therefore if you tip 10% and tip out is 5%, the server only keeps the remaining 5% of that tip. If you tip 15%, then server keeps 10%. Sitting in the restaurant after close. I've got kids to pick up from babysitters. I've got groceries to buy. I'm not staying past close. Luckily I've started kicking people out right at 11 saying COVID doesn't let us stay open. I have never understood this one. How can people not be turned away within a half hour till closing? Why not just lock the doors? As well as bringing people their bill at closing time. Obviously I know staff can't just make that decision, but I'm amazed this isn't just the norm in the restaurant industry. Showing up 10 minutes before a restaurant is closing is inconsiderate, and I don't understand how people can't realize that. As a server of over 15 years, I hate this thinking. If the restaurant is open, it's open. If you don't want guests to walk in 10 minutes before close the restaurant 10 minutes earlier. There has to be a line. And that line was established on the door. Now, don't take your sweet ass time. Order, eat, leave. Please just follow mask mandates in your area. I can deal with everything else. But the abuse is becoming too much. Granted, I have really good managers who will kick someone out. But we'd rather not do that. I know it's kind of dumb in restaurants because you aren't always wearing it. But we can get fined. I just had a group of girls tell me to shut up and taunt me this weekend over it when I had asked politely several times, immediately followed by an old man berating me for asking. We didn't make the rule. Always tip on the amount before gift cards and coupons. BC, I work in a high-end chain restaurant in a tourist area. We get a lot of gift cards and coupons. A $500 bill can easily be knocked down to $100. But then people tip 15% on the $100. We owe tip out on the original bill. So after a tip like that, we actually owe money to the till. I cannot tell you how many times I've been screwed over. BC, we don't have an auto gratuity and I've walked away with shitty tips despite having expensive tables. I'm not a server, but I know quite a few people who are. And I would say that the main thing they complain about is that people just treat them like shit. Or like they are subhuman. Honestly, if you just treat people like they are your equal and just give them some basic human decency, you will get a lot better service. And wait staff won't hate going to your table. Nothing is free. You gotta pay even if it f-king costs 50 cents. Edit. Also, I have absolutely no control over how fast the food comes. If it takes longer than expected because we are full, then just be f-king patient. My service personality is not me. Parts of me bleeds through and I am very personable. You dictate how much we engage. But please don't caricaturize me. I really don't like being told to perform and it is super stressful. If you want an order taker to grab your food and drinks, awesome. If you want somebody to be your therapist, I will listen. But don't cross a line and don't assume too much about me. I was basically an actress when I waited tables. My real personality is nothing like the person I pretended to be at work. And I would lie about personal things all the time. Because 1. Personal questions are inappropriate anyway, and 2. I'll say whatever I think you want to hear because I want a tip. Not a restaurant server. But I know this one little tip. Do not get the water with a lemon wedge in IT. The lemons are usually filthy. Just like retail workers enforcing store policies. Don't conflate a badly cooked meal or upcharge with your waiter being the reason. That if you have a problem with the food, shouting at the waitress about it is literally shooting the messenger. If you make me perform for my tip, singing, dancing, or anything along those lines, you are tier 1 asshole. I did what I needed to do for a tip. Don't degrade me. A lot of the small town business aren't properly following COVID procedures or safety regulations aside from the masks. At my job alone, we are supposed to do a temp log and ask questions. But our thermometer doesn't work. And it's almost never actually checked. A lot of people I know are experiencing the same thing in fast food restaurants. As a former restaurant worker, I have a couple things. 1. Clean up after yourself. If you drop stuff on the floor, pick it up. You don't have to clean. Just be nice. 2. Don't rearrange tables without asking. I worked at a garden place and people would move tables without permission and then leave them. Piss me off every time. 3. Don't be a jerk. Yes. We know the trash is full and the tables are full, etc. Don't be a creep because our restaurant isn't perfect looking when you come in during busy time. 4. Most important. Do not stay past closing time. Last year, we had 6 ladies who moved tables together and had already finished eating were sitting a half hour past closing and complained to management that my broom was casting dust in their direction and that me moving the heavy chairs was too loud and bothering them and that I was disrespectful. I wasn't rude. I was tired after working 14 hours and wanted to clean up before my 1-hour drive home.